Hello, everyone, and welcome to Couples and Conversations. We are super excited to have you. Thanks for joining our channel. If this is your first time joining us, please do us a favor and like the page, comment, and subscribe. You can also find us on YouTube at Couples and Conversations. You can find us on Twitter at Couples and Conversations and also Instagram. Very, very excited about the topic that we're going to be talking about today, and we're excited to share that with you. Before we get started, we are going to introduce the panel. So we have my wife, who is Jennifer James. And then we have Dem Crawfords, Erica, and Jonathan. We have the Greens. And then we have Miss Tammy. Super excited to have you guys. Excited about everything that we've been doing. If you have never been a part of this conversation, if you have anything that you want to add to the conversation, please comment up under the post and we will bring those in as we see fit. Excuse me. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to show you guys what we are going to be talking about today. So I'm just going to share my screen. So I'm seeing that there's a photo that's going around, and it says no woman goes to a man with a bad attitude. It is the behavior of a man that changes a woman. So we're going to be talking about that today, discussing that when that post was live on Facebook. It went pretty viral, and we had a bunch of differences of opinions, so we're going to start there. And today we are going to start the chat off with the Greens. We would love to hear Mr. Green first.
Me first? Why? Should she go first?
No, baby, you.
Because I'm kind of, I wanted to hear what other people had to say before I responded, because this is a loaded question. You kind of shooting us with multiple guns here. Because when I look at the picture, it's kind of like, I don't know, Doc. So it's going to be a deep conversation some people ain't willing to have. So are you specifically asking how communication plays a part, or you just want me to go off, just raw dog off this picture that I'm looking at?
I want you, we are addressing the photo.
The photo.
Raw dog.
What you say, Jonathan?
Go raw dog with it, man. Go
Well,
raw dog.
let them have it. All right, cuz let me go ahead and crack my knuckles then, because it's about to be some steak and cheese and potatoes had tonight. So I initially saw the post, and the post I see posts like this on my timeline all day, every day, and it's usually a certain a certain sex that likes to put photos out like that on social media, especially on Facebook, and that's where I saw the photo initially. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, I do believe that that's how a lot of women think, where they feel as if whatever goes wrong in a relationship or in their life, or whatever compromise they happiness, is all due to some actions of a man. And in our community, that's even more so, because we have a stigma of being deadbeats. We got a stigma of being no good. We got a stigma of being dogs. But I honestly think that they believe that way. And it's kind of a hard question to tackle, a hard subject to tackle, because you can say from your perspective of how you feel as a man and what you experience, but it would never ring the ears of a woman, because that's just how they think. And from my experience, I think I know for a fact, we've actually had a situation where a woman or a couple was next to us, and we were sitting in between them, and we were just talking about just regular couple things, like, everybody gets on each other's nerves. And the female, or the woman of the couple, she said, a girlfriend said, I don't do anything wrong. I'm perfect, right? Right, y'all? I was about to say the dude's name, right? And she looked over at him, and he was looking like, and even Christina, you were right. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Even Christina was like, oh, nah. Nah, I know she can't be. I know she can't be serious because she was neurotic and she had a lot of issues. And one of the reasons why she believed that she had nothing wrong with her was one of the reasons why the relationship didn't last very long. You know, it was no, and in my opinion, from my experience, a person that's not willing to admit when they're wrong or be accountable, you kind of stunt the growth of yourself and you stunt the growth of a relationship. I think a lot of times when I've dealt with women, they come in a relationship believing that they already well equipped to deal with anything. They feel, a lot of women in our community feel we're already healed. So what's your problem? But they don't realize that the same toxic personality or same male toxic personality that they say that we have is the same thing that they have. I mean, nobody talks about toxic femininity or female pride. And these are things that females have too, but they're never addressed and never tried to rectify. So.
Just a second.
Oh, we good, man. I got a lot more. This is like a 5 minute. I'm not about to go on a rant. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let it. I'm gonna give it to you in doses. So I'm gonna let her have her time.
Okay.
Okay.
So basically, just straight up off the meme. Just straight up off the meme, I feel like definitely, I won't say in all cases 100%, but in most cases, we are reacting off of, it's our reaction off of something that you did. So then, yeah, after reacting so many times in so many instances in a relationship, yeah, it changes our behavior. I'm not saying that we are not held accountable for what we do and that we are not responsible for our own behavior, but I'm saying most of the time in relationship, the female is reacting off something that the male has done. That's just really how it is.
Okay,
that's just really how it is.
Go deeper.
So I have to be in agreement with this. I have to be in agreement with this.
You gotta ask some probing questions. That don't make no sense. That was vague as I don't know what, man.
Before you go deeper, we'll get back to you. Erica, go ahead.
Ooh, so I would have to agree with Christina. I feel like the meme itself definitely is not, I mean, that's not 100% true. And that's not for male or female for that matter. I mean, your actions is your actions. It shouldn't really have anything to do with what your counterpart has done. However, now I'm going to speak for me. So I feel like that a lot of some of the things that I have done or anything I may have done was definitely a negative, like it was a reaction to an action. So that's why I did basically whatever I did was because I reacted off of his actions. I'm gonna speak Jonathan's actions. I ain't gonna say his, like he not right here on the call. So but anything that I have done, it was pretty much, it triggered something in me to do something that I did. However, again, that just explains the situation. Like I said before, it doesn't necessarily excuse the behavior, but it does explain the reason, why I did what I did. But do I agree with that meme 100%? No, because your actions is totally because it's something that you want to do. However, there can be some triggers that will cause you to do things because of somebody else's actions. So you are dishing out whatever you're doing, but you can't be mad at me because I'm the receiver on this end and be mad at what I do because of what you did. You have to be willing to accept either the consequences, repercussions, or benefits for that matter if what you did was the right thing. Because if you did something good, you're going to want a cookie, right? So let's put it in layman's terms. If you did something good, you're going to want a cookie. You're going to want, you're going to want to be, hey, you did a good job. Great job. You're going to want that praise when you do something good. But when you do something negative, it's always a problem. Oh, I'm toxic or I'm wrong because of something. Yeah, you did something wrong. So I'm going to react in a manner in which you caused me to react. Now, if you do good, I'll give you a cookie. But if you do wrong, I'm going to give you a dog bone. Point, period.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Crawford.
All right. I 100% disagree with this meme or what it say. First off, women, and we talking about women, are unstable emotional creatures already. Number one, you're already unstable, emotional, everything. So I don't have to do nothing wrong and you can come at me sideways because you already feeling some type of way about something or somebody else. I don't know. I can count plenty of times I done caught attitude fastballs that had nothing to do with me, but I ate them up. I ate them up and I dealt with it, but I knew it had nothing to do with me. So I know I definitely disagree with this whole stat. And I mean, and it can go both ways, but no, half the time we don't have to do nothing. If I don't respond the way you think I'm gonna respond, you mad. If I don't act the way you think I should act, you get mad. But just because I'm not acting the way that you want, don't mean I did nothing wrong, and don't mean that you have to fire at me. So no, I definitely disagree with this. It's wrong. Whoever did it, they got problems, and they need to check themselves.
Okay, Tammy.
I'm going to have to agree with the man on this post. I think that this post is definitely not true. It has a little truth to it, but it doesn't have a lot of truth to it. I think in the beginning of a relationship, this may be true. And, you know, because initially we're good. Then y'all guys start acting a dang old fool. And then our behavior has to change. Okay, but on the flip side of it, if you catch me on one of my PMS days, I may come with a bad attitude. However, I always give a disclosure. I'm PMSing, so don't mess with me. I won't mess with you. However, men don't know how to respect that. They can't respect that, and that's a big problem. You can forewarn men like I'm not having a good day, and they still will come pressuring you, asking you question after question after question, and in a minute it's just gonna be like, damn, like, no, not my attitude is messed up because you bother me. And I specifically said I don't want to be bothered. But I disagree with this post totally. But I do think in the beginning, I do think men change the behavior of women.
Okay, Jennifer.
Sorry, ladies. Yeah, I agree that this post is wrong. However, I don't necessarily agree with everything that Jonathan and Tammy said. Like, yes, on the outside, women appear more emotional. However, men are very emotional too. They just show it in a different way. So to say that that's the reason behind the attitudes and whatever, I feel like that's inaccurate. And then, like, just to be honest, like, I just grew up with an attitude. Like, I've always had an attitude. They call me Miss Bro because my grandma always had an attitude. She was very Southern or whatever. So that's something that I have to control. And I don't feel like it gets worse when I'm PMSing. And I honestly feel like that's an excuse to try to get a pass on it. Like, that's, I mean, with anything, you have to control yourself. And especially because we know that this is happening every time. And so just like anything, you have to learn how to cope with it. You have to learn how to deal with those emotions in that time. And so I don't feel like that's an accurate excuse for it. And I feel like when we use that, we're not taking accountability for our actions.
Thank you. So Jason, I saw your hand. I'm coming to you, so I'm going to respond and then you're up next. So I totally 100% disagree with this meme altogether. And I think that it's pretty childish for someone to say my actions and my reaction is totally predicated on what you do. Because I believe that there are times when there are just, you know, like Jonathan said, we can do absolutely nothing, you know, and even to speak to what Tammy said, Tammy stated, you know, she could be PMSing and she has already pre-warned us that she's not in the mood. Well, guess what? I understand that you're PMSing, but I also haven't seen you all day and I want to hug you. I want to kiss you. I want to talk to you. I want to be in your presence. So you can't tell me that just because you're like, oh, I'm not in the mood, that I have to cut off everything that I need and I want because you're in a mood. Because I feel like when you're in a relationship, you have got to know, yes, everybody are going to have their times. Yes, everybody's going to have their moments where they are like, I just need this moment to myself. Jennifer does it a lot. You know, she's just like, I'm going to go to the other room because I got to work on this paper or I got to do whatever. And that's your time alone. But her attitude is not predicated on me because a lot of times I'll be like, what's wrong? And then she got an attitude because I keep asking her what's wrong. Because she's telling me no, nothing's wrong. But I see on your face, I can tell in your actions that something is wrong. So something is wrong. So not only do you have an attitude about whatever you have an attitude about, now you have an attitude that I'm trying to figure out what's wrong, and I'm trying to move the mood into another level. So I agree. I am not going to say that women are emotionally unstable creatures. That's a little too far, but I will say that I don't believe in any way that their behavior is predicated on how we act. So that's my opinion. Go ahead, Jason. I saw your hand.
I'm kind of piggybacking off of who I think Tammy stated, like the PMS. See, I mean, when I look at it, I don't think that, once the PMS is over, you just bounce back to like miscongeniality, or you just like the nicest, most easiest person to deal with. If you're already unstable because of that, and that is a traumatic experience, I will not lie to you. But the attitude, the disposition, the negative thought, whatever you want to call it, and I'm not just speaking on my wife, because she definitely has PMS, and her attitude is based off of what's going on, and she does have an attitude a lot of times. I tell her she got a filthy ass. She's been doing a little bit better, but at the end of the day, she doesn't just bounce back to just miss nice all of a sudden once the PMS period is over. And you figure that's like a week and a half, and you only got 3 more weeks throughout the month where you can be normal. So that's basically what you're telling me, is to deal with your mess. Deal with your mess, but you can't deal with mine. That's basically what you're telling me. Deal with whatever I got to bring to your doorstep, but I don't want to have nothing to do with what you got to bring to mine. And that's basically how it is, because it's almost like you have to accept the attitude, but you can't have one yourself. You can't have a bad day. You can't be upset or irritated about anything, especially when it comes from something that she might have done or is doing. And a lot of times not being able to recognize that is what caused a lot of breakdowns in communication and just issues in the relationship. And it's not on her end, it's not on the male's end, it's just on whoever's not able to accept that, okay, well, I'm acting funky right now, I need to check myself.
I agree with that totally. Go ahead, Tammy.
I wanted to say 2 things. First thing to Jennifer, PMS is real, and it's not a cop-out. For many years, I tried to figure out, like with Kevin, he was telling me all the time, like, dang, baby, you acting like a bitch. And I'm like, dang, but I found it happening like every month. And it took many, many years for us to figure out, Tammy, you got PMS. And it was always right before I came on my menstrual. So I found out years later that was the case. But I want you to know that it's real and it's not a cop-out. However, going back to what Jason is saying, everybody is able to have a bad day. And I think it's okay for you to have a bad day, but what's wrong with communicating that? If I'm having a bad day and I need space, give me my space for a minute, Mills. Don't come give me a hug if right now I don't feel like being hugged on.
Right.
Don't do that, because that can irritate me. And it's okay, same way, vice versa. If you say, you know what, Jennifer, you know what, I just need my space. I had a rough day at work. The kids is getting on my nerves. I'm feeling a little bit of pressure. Just give me 30 minutes. You should be okay with getting 30 minutes without getting an attitude.
But it's never 30 minutes. Your attitude is messed up for the whole day, the whole
But that's
night.
just that person. That's just Jennifer.
No, that's not Jennifer. That's not Jennifer. I'm talking about in relationships in general.
No.
I'm not talking about all women. I'm talking about in relationships. It's never just, if it was, and actually this is one thing that Jennifer does well. She will tell me I need to go in the room or whatever, and then we have a rule. We don't let stuff fester. We are going to talk about this now, or we're gonna pay it. And if you don't want to talk about this now, then it's paid. Don't bring it up again. So she is very good with giving me a time.
So why do you think people have attitudes all the time? I don't understand that. Why do you think that?
It has been my experience with women both inside and outside of my relationship that once you have an attitude, that is it. That is your mood.
That's not true. That's certain women. That's certain women. I agree, because Christina have that problem. Sorry, Christina, not trying to call you out. But if she's angry or have an attitude, that nose is, the nostrils flaring, and it ain't bringing her down until maybe 20 years from now. Like, girl, if you don't fix them nostrils. And that ain't even got nothing to do with like just her, I'm quite sure her husband making her upset. That's anyone.
First of all, do not use me. Don't use
No,
me.
I'm using you as an example, baby, because that's you all day. But I'm saying, if a woman has an attitude all the time in a relationship, it's something that man is not doing or is causing for her to have that attitude. And if it's not a man, it may be something else.
Okay.
Back to square one. We went back to square one. We just started all over again.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
So just going back to Tammy, I'm not saying that PMS is not real. What I'm saying is you can't use that as an excuse, like that they should just accept your attitude just because you're PMSing this week. Like you said, you have been able to assess it and figure out that it happens every time that I'm on. This is when I'm PMSing. Okay, so what can you do to make sure that you're not taking that out on your partner? I'm not saying that that does not happen, but you do have to be able to shift or adjust yourself in order to make sure that your relationship is healthy during that week. You don't just get to take a week off of your relationship and just be like, oh, she PMSing, so just don't bother her. We're not together this week, or she's acting up this week because of these circumstances. There's always going to be circumstances in a relationship or in life that you have to learn how to deal with. And then when actually Frank kind of brought it up as far as people having an attitude all day. One, again, I don't think that that's just women. I feel like men can do that too. And I think that that's a maturity thing. You can't just say in general, when women have an attitude, it goes for the whole day. That's an immature woman who is not able to address the situation and move on.
I agree. Go ahead, Jonathan.
I just want to say I don't agree with what Tammy said as far as, yeah, I'm calling you out. Yeah, when she said sometimes y'all don't want to be hugged, y'all just want to be left alone. Now, if we do that because y'all having a bad day, then now y'all mad at us because we didn't come check up on y'all. Might not be all women, but if like I say, I know my wife. If I don't say nothing to her or try to ask her what's wrong, now she's mad at me.
Checking on us does not mean
you said you don't want no hug, but me coming to give you a hug, that's me being a husband, making sure my wife is good. That's me making sure my wife is good, no matter what she's going through. Now, if I don't do that, then now you like, oh, now he don't care. He don't care what's going on. Oh, he probably down there texting somebody else because I'm not talking. So we got to go through all that. When we want to be there, y'all don't want us to be. Then when we don't, take my time because I'm about to go.
Go ahead, Christina. You're next.
So for me, honestly, it really just depends on, as far as how long I keep that attitude, it really just depends on what the situation is. If it's something that's not really a big deal, my attitude is up. Even if I'm still like, I'm not walking around the house with a big grin on my face, don't mean that I got attitude. I'm just chilling. But I do, just to kind of go back to what we originally are talking about, I feel like, I know in the meme it said women behavior change based off how a man acts or everything, but I really think that's just people in general. Your behavior gonna change towards a person when you know what that person is in your life for, what they bring into your life. It don't necessarily have to even be in relationships. It could just be in regular friendships or just your day-to-day people. When you see what type of energy somebody giving off, that's how you're going to address them. So your behavior may change from when you first met that person or you were first friends with that person. Now I see what you want, so my behavior towards you is going to change. And that's not necessarily just in a relationship, in a personal relationship, romantic relationship. For me, that's in all relationships, man or woman. So I guess really, the meme, somebody did make this meme just to get under men's skin. I don't really think it was a for real deal, because that's just, for me, it's just common no matter who you are, what relationship. My behavior gonna change based off the type of energy that you give me.
Yeah, but I see stuff like that all the time though. So
Erica, I'm coming to you. So get ready. I don't know that I agree with the notion that anybody's behavior should be predicated on somebody else. Now, I believe that there are things that are going to happen. So, for example, Jennifer and I, when we were looking for a house 2 years ago before we bought our home. When we were going to a house, I would be like, oh, I really like this house. And then Jennifer will see something that is like an automatic no. And it will be like, we don't even need to keep looking because this is a no. I saw this and this is a no. And then she would just move on. And I'm like, wait, but I like this house. and because you don't like it, so now we stopped it. I still did not change my behavior for the rest of us looking at these other houses, even though I was annoyed at what she did. She done canceled the whole house before she even asked me what my opinion was. But I didn't let that dictate how I responded. My response is still based off of the decisions that I make on how to respond, and it should not be predicated on another person. Go ahead, Erica.
So I just wanted to address Jonathan's statement because I feel like that's not necessarily a true statement to make about us.
Watch yourself.
Because I never, and how often do I ask you to leave me alone? So you can't put me in that category because I don't ask you to leave me alone. When I'm upset or frustrated, if you will, if we going back and forth, we're done with the argument, we're done with it, then yes, I do expect for you to come and check on me because I don't tell you to leave me alone. I don't tell you to give me my space. I never do. So for you to say that, that was kind of rude to even say that because that has never happened. So that's that's
true.
Number
That's
one.
not what I
So
was saying.
that does not happen between us. So to me, to say that was kind of pointless. But anywho, we can discuss that later.
Oh, no, we're gonna discuss it
As
now.
far as I agree 1000% with what Christina said. I feel like, and I get what you're saying, Frank, saying that someone's actions shouldn't predicate or should be, how you follow up with your response. But at the same time is you have to understand, like I said earlier, you got to think about what you're doing when think about what's going to happen in that receivership. Like what's going to happen after you dished out whatever it is that you dished out. And that could be anybody for that matter. There's a lot of people who think that I'm mean as I don't know what, which is totally fine. But it's just that for me to have my feelings walk over for years and never say anything, it caused a bite inside of me that says, I won't allow anybody to think that they can say, do, whatever approach me. And that's not even just, like I said, in a relationship, but that's just in general for me with anybody. So it will change my behavior. I think it's a little bit more heightened when it's your spouse because you feel like they should respect you on a level or should understand you on a level where, they shouldn't do anything to make you feel a certain type of way. Because if we're, I trust you enough that you have my feelings in your hand, you have my feelings. So my thing is you should treat them accordingly. So if you do something that's going to change my behavior, then of course I may come off a little like, wait a minute, hold on. You got my feelings right here in your hand. Treat them right. I trust that you're going to, especially my spouse, you're the one who's supposed to be here to treat me right. Or whatever. And then when you come at me negatively, I'm not supposed to have a response to that. Or if you do something that, kind of hurts me a little bit, I'm not supposed to have a response to that. I just feel like it might be a little heightened when it is your spouse though.
So I agree with you. And I want to talk about that for a second. And babe, I saw your hand coming to you. I want for us to talk about this. And I think this is a great moment for us to talk about this. I feel like in relationships, speaking to what you just said, Erica, a lot of the times it's always heightened when it comes to our partner, when it comes to our spouse, when it comes to somebody that we're in a relationship with. And I don't believe it's always the fact that your partner is saying or doing something wrong. So I think you bottle up and you hold up all of these motions and your partner gets the brunt of it. They get the thick of everything. And and one analogy I use with my wife all the time is, I will be your water when you want to throw fire. But when you're not throwing fire, I need us to meet in this middle ground and I need us to be water together. And sometimes it's hard for us to be that water together because that fire is coming all the time. So I want us to kind of talk about a little bit how, I think you spoke to it a little bit saying that you have my feelings in your hand, but I want to talk a little bit about why is it that our partners get the brunt, they get the heaviness of our emotions, even if what they're doing is a very insignificant part of how you're feeling, how you're responding. Why is it that they get the brunt, and how do we fix that? Jennifer, starting with you.
Actually, I'm gonna go back to something else first. But no, just going to what you had, the example that you gave, when you were saying about the house and how your attitude didn't change because of that situation. One, I feel like that would have been immature for you to get mad over that situation, because it was, I don't like the house and we both have to live here and I'm here taking care of the kids more. So I think that that would be unreasonable to have that thought. But going back to kind of what Erica and Christina said, when you are in a relationship with anyone, and not necessarily in a relationship like a intimate relationship, but friendships or acquaintances or whatever, depending on how they treat you or just who they are in general, you do somewhat change. And I know that you don't like the idea of changing your behavior based off of someone, but you don't necessarily lose. Like for you, you're charismatic, you have pizzazz, whatever. But if somebody wronged you, you still gonna be frank, but you gonna know how short or how long you got them. Like, oh, I seen you, I got you. So it's not necessarily changing your behaviors per se, but you do shift a little bit to address them as a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. I want you to address my rapid fire question though, because you went back and we were on rapid fire.
I don't want to answer this question. One, I ain't like that you said it's always fire, but I don't. So I think it has to do with the feeling of safety and security, and it's kind of abusing the safety and security in a way, unfortunately. But like when you're out here in the community and you're dealing with coworkers or whatever, and they say something to you sly and you just hold it in because you like, oh, I'm professional. This would be unprofessional if I say this and this, and you're kind of bottling it in. But then when you get home, it's like, I'm free. Like we have this intimate relationship. I'm safe here. Like I can just let it loose, and without even thinking about it, you let it loose, and then you have to like, crap, think about it like, oh, this is somebody that I care for, I love, and I just showed this person this side of them. So I think with all of that, it comes to having that communication and identifying what works for your relationship. So like for our relationship, we can have those moments of you just going off the wall. One, because I can easily be like, oh, well, that wasn't even for me. So I'm gonna let you have your moment, but you are gonna apologize and you're gonna make up for that. But it's not like I'm mad at you because you're doing this, this, and this. And so I think you have to figure out what works best for your relationship and what works best for you individually. Because also, I mean, although we don't have as many that far, that's like constant fire, and so it doesn't necessarily impact us. But if it was a repeated fire, we would probably have to renegotiate this. Like, nah, bro, you got to deal with that in your car or something. Like you got to figure out some other way to get that out, because you're not about to just walk in the door and spew fire at me every single day. And so I think it depends on the person, but because of that safety net that your intimate partner provides, I think that that's why we feel so safe spewing that out. But then we have to make sure that we are not abusing that safety net, because the safety net can break.
Yeah, we may need to renegotiate ours then.
See, you always got to be petty.
Go ahead, Tammy.
Okay, so my thoughts on why our spouses get the brunt of our emotions. I think for one, it's because us as spouses, and I'm saying us, I'm not just saying men nor women, I think we have a hard time listening. Because most times, if I'm experiencing something, difficulty at work, or have an experience with someone out in the world and it has nothing to do with you, the first thing I'm going to do when I talk to you is try and vent. And when I vent, I want you to listen. I don't need your opinions about it, because sometimes your opinions may cause me to be defensive. I don't need your opinions. I just need you to listen. And I think that's one thing that us as spouses struggle with, is just listening, just being a listening ear, just respect our wishes at that time. I'm frustrated. It's not nothing to do with you, baby, but just listen to me. Or I'm frustrated, baby. I need some time. Just give me time. But you want to be like Jonathan and you want to keep bothering me. Don't bother me. Give me my space. Respect my wishes and learn to listen. And I think if we learn to do that, then you guys and women, men, both, and because I'm not saying it's a woman or male thing, won't feel the brunt of those type of situations.
All right, Jonathan.
I believe the question was, why do our spouses get the brunt of the emotions, even though it ain't got nothing to do with them, correct?
Correct.
Me personally, I believe that the spouses get the brunt of it because half the time the people who they have the issues with and stresses with, they don't want to say nothing to them. They want to, but they don't know how to say nothing to them without snapping, without losing a job, without losing a friend. But they're more comfortable with their spouse. And they know all you're going to do is sleep it off and I'll see you in the morning. So I think that's why most spouses take it out on the spouse. I believe that's why Erica do it to me, because Erica know I'm strong enough to take everything she throw at me. And Erica goes through a lot. She deals, and she wear a bunch of different hats, and I listen to her problems. So a lot of times I know she come at me because she don't want to go at them. And it's not that she's scared of going at nobody else. It's just she don't know how they may react, and their reaction may trigger another reaction from her. So that's probably why she would take it out on me, because she know I can handle it. Ain't that right, baby?
Go ahead, Christina.
So I think that the reason that we take it out on our spouses, both man take it out on their wife and wife take it out on their man, is pretty much in agreement with Jennifer. We're comfortable there. If I went to work and I had a very bad day at work and I'm annoyed and I get home, I know that I can have my attitude at home. I know at the end of the day that we're going to get past that attitude, you know, especially because it don't have anything to do with them anyway. I came home like this. And so I need to take it out on somebody. And if it's a work-related professional relationship, obviously I'm not going to be at work acting a fool or giving everybody that attitude, even though that's the place where it came from. I'm going to remain professional. But I know when I get home, I can live out my frustrations. And yes, that may come with me yelling where misplaced yelling or misplaced rolling of the eyes or misplaced silent treatment. But I know for certain I can get past that we are going to get past that versus spewing all that at the workplace, and now I'm possibly about to get fired because I just started going off on people. You know what I'm saying? So I think the reason that our spouse get it is just because we're comfortable there. Like I know I can have a terrible day, come home, yell at Jay, and at the end of the day, we still sleeping in the same bed. This still gonna be Jay, you know, my Jay. I'm not worried about anything bad happening of that. And yes, that doesn't make it fair. That doesn't make it right. Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you asked why do we do that? And that's why, because like she said, we're safe, we're comfortable there. And changing it is just a matter of knowing where to place the anger or the irritation, you know what I'm saying? Just knowing where everything belongs and just really getting over it. Because if you are angry, then what? Like I said, we're not serial killers. I'm not gonna go shoot up the workplace. So it's just like, just pretty much just getting over it.
Jay.
I mean, I don't. Where are we at right now, man? Because I understand and I agree with everybody when they say that it's two ways, because it's always a two-sided street. It's just sometimes, from my perspective, I see it being more of less accountability and more, well, if something is wrong with me, it's your fault. And I think it's a situation where, like Christina said, it takes two people to understand, okay, I need to adjust my attitude. I need to fix whatever's going on or whatever's going on wrong with me. Now, if it's something on the outside that you bring into the relationship or an issue, you got to check that at the door, in my opinion, because you can't expect me to be the brunt of it when you got something going on that had nothing to do with me.
All right, Erica.
So I would have to agree totally with what Jennifer, Christina has said, and thank you, Jonathan, for being careful with your response. But no, I do think that I think that because you have that safety net, that's why you do those things. And I feel like I don't necessarily take it out on Jonathan like I used to. I think I've gotten better. don't do that. But I think I have gotten better. And I think I vent more about the actual situation itself instead of pulling him into it. And I appreciate him for being, that punching bag when I need it, because sometimes, like I said, I'm more afraid of the other person's reaction because they're not going to like my reaction. So, I could lose friends, I could lose family with a lot of the things, but I've decided to kind of, keep myself, at a place where I don't, go there with people. So I decide to just blah, 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 word vomit all over Jonathan, and he gets the brunt of it. But he has been, my backbone for that, and I appreciate it. However, I think I have gotten better, and I try not to take, those outside factors to pull them into our relationship, because we're going to have enough, situations that we'll have to deal with on our own. So why bring in any of my own personal baggage to our relationship, just vent to him about whatever it is that I have going on, instead of, like pulling him into it, or like, well, you such and such and such, just start bringing him into it when I'm having an issue on my own. So I think I've gotten better. I will say that. It's still a work in progress, something that I want to work on, because it's definitely not fair, for your partner to have to deal with that because of something that you're going through personally. But I think I'm getting better, and I appreciate Jonathan for being there for me for that matter.
All right, Tammy, I see your hand. I'm coming to you. And I just wanted to respond to it really quick. So I think it's super important that, one, I agree with what everybody said about the reason that our spouse get it is because you feel safe at home. But I would also challenge that a little bit, and speaking to something that Jennifer said, a safety net can break. So I think it's extremely important that you think about your safety net and think about it breaking, and think about creating a place that is not unstable. Because
Hey, Frank, my bad, I don't want to cut you off, but she said something that was real important. Say that again.
I said my safety net is unbreakable, but your child is.
Wow, that was deep. You gotta.
So we can go there next. We can definitely go there next. So you do have to consider that safety net, right? Because there are, while, and I agree with Tammy, because this does go both ways. I don't believe that this is a male or a female thing. It does go both ways. There are situations that you just don't know. And this is why I think it's important for me and my relationship. One thing I do have to ask Jennifer before she does come and unload on me, what in this moment, what is it that you need? Do you need to vent? Is it something that you need me to fix? And you gotta ask those questions. Because if you don't, and you're anything like me, I internalize everything. And I assume that I've done something wrong. If you're bringing me that attitude, so now, even though you told me I didn't do anything wrong, and if I didn't ask her that question ahead of time, I am automatically assuming that she is upset with me, something I did, because she'll throw something that I did up in there. She'll start talking about work. And then she'll throw and the trash ain't been taken out and the grass ain't cut. And they said this and that. So she'll throw it in there. And even though it's totally unrelated, now I have all of this thing that I am processing through. And I think it's me. So I do believe that it's important for you to ask those questions. What do you need from me in this moment? What let's talk about this. And because you have to be very candid about what you're talking about, because if you don't, you can certainly destroy the safety net. But I do want to go to Christina, because Christina did say that her safety net is unbreakable. And I would love to hear more about why you believe your safety net is unbreakable. So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Green at the moment.
I just feel like it is. I mean, I don't know 100% for sure if Jay is unbreakable, but I just feel like our bond is that deep that it's not really much I could do to go ahead and for the net to be broken as far as him. That's how I feel. Now, if I'm right or not, I don't know, but that's just how I feel, that my safety net is that strong, that it's, what is the unbreakable rope called, babe?
3-strand cord.
That.
God is included in that, so that's a little bit different. But I guess that is a good point. I mean, that has to be a good. That has to be something that has to be in place too. Because if you, as a man, I guess when I look at my responsibility to my wife, it has to be something above me that I have a healthy fear of in order for me to do what I need to do, either to please her or to make sure that I don't do things to jeopardize our union. So I think that's a big part of it too, to be able to have that as a reality in my life or a man's life in order for him to be able to perform the duties of a father or as a husband.
So I want to, let me say this before we move on. Tammy, I have your name down. Let me define safety net first before we move forward, because when I say safety net and when I use safety net as a I don't even know the word I'm looking for, as a whatever I used it as, I don't mean that it can break the relationship. When I say safety net, your home, and I've said this many, many times, but your home, the space in which you communicate, the space in which you provide, has to be a safe space, right? Safe as in it is open, it's honest, you are allowed to talk about things, you are allowed to express your emotions freely in this space. Breaking that safety net means that you have come in and you have disrespected this area so much that we cannot even talk here. And something that's so weird, and this is so crazy about my wife and I don't know what it is, but if she chews gum, we're going to get into an argument. I kid you not. I'm telling you, I do not know what it is, but if she starts to chew, it's the craziest, strangest thing. And I don't have an issue with how she chew or nothing. But if we are in a conversation, and she's chewing gum, it usually ends in fireworks. Not even kidding. I don't know what it is, but what I mean, I just wanted to clarify, I don't mean it can break your safety net as in you guys will separate and be divorced. I mean that it will break the safety, the dope space that you created in your home. That's what I'm talking about.
Did you say something, Milshu? Was breaking up a little bit. Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
So I have a question, because in your question, that the rapid fire question you asked, you said, why is our spouses always get the brunt of our emotions? So my question is, because I hear a lot of people talking about safety net. When you talk about the brunt of our emotions, are you talking about us unloading, us bringing our venting to our spouses, letting them know our frustrations, or taking our frustrations out on our spouse? Because the safety net is not there for you to abuse, because that's going back to abuse when you're taking your frustrations out on your spouse. But when you're talking about just unloading and venting, that also can be difficult as well, because when you're unloading, like, for example, I'm going through a lot right now. So a lot of times I distance myself from people so they don't have to feel all these emotions all the time, whether I'm feeling depressed, down, sad, or whatever. I don't want to put that on to the next person all the time. So I create space. So I just need to clarify, what are you guys talking about when you say I'm feeling the brunt of our emotions? Because to me, safety net meaning it's never okay for you to take your frustrations out on your safety net, because eventually your safety net will get tired. So I just need to understand, what do y'all mean?
I agree with what you just stated. I believe that I'm not talking about venting. I'm talking about the behavior, because there's nothing wrong with the venting, but when there's the behavior attached to it, you have an attitude with me, you're not talking to me, you don't want me around you, you don't want me to touch you, you want me in a different space than you, that's a behavior issue, and that has nothing to do with you venting. So once your behavior begins to change and it's not just your mouth, then that's when I believe that we begin, just like I just stated, how Jennifer would throw a trash can in there, or not cutting the grass. This moment is not appropriate for you to talk about the grass or the trash, because you are speaking of an issue that you're having unrelated to us. And when you scoop them together and you say something to me, now we're in an altercation because you're having safety net conversation when it should be in a venting place.
So how do we prevent these from happening? Because, you know, I heard a lot about this safety net stuff, but I didn't hear anything about how do we prevent this type of argument or this type of reaction or behavior from happening.
Go ahead, Jennifer, and then Jason.
One, you totally made up that story about some gum. But anyway, secondly, I wanted to address what Christina and Jason was talking about, how Christina said that her safety net is unbreakable. On one hand, that's an awesome mentality. And I think that all of us on here that are married have said before, like divorce is not even an option, like we're here for the long haul. So I think that that's awesome. But on the other hand, I think that we should be careful with that mentality that our safety net is unbreakable, because that can cause us to abuse it, because I can act however I want to act because my safety net is unbreakable. I can throw anything at him or anything at her and they're still going to be there. And that's not accurate. And it goes back to what Jason was saying. And I know that he was speaking from a male's perspective, but that actually goes on both ends. I have to make sure that I do things that does not jeopardize the relationship, and attitudes and behaviors and all those kids potentially jeopardize the relationship. And it may not jeopardize it in that moment, but how we were talking about stuff builds up and there's resentment and additional things start added to it, and eventually it gets heavy. And with anything, when you think about a net, like when you're fishing, you throw it in and you're trying to bring up the fish. And if it's too much in the load, the safety net or the net can snap. And so you have to be careful with thinking that it's unbreakable, because really, in reality, nothing is really unbreakable if you just throw anything at it. You have to be intentional about keeping the relationship healthy.
Agreed. Jason, let's go to Jonathan, then we'll come back to Jason.
No, I just wanted to say, into response to Tammy's question, I think it's hard to really say how can we deal with or handle or change the situation. I mean, everybody handles stuff differently and they go through stuff differently. Like, I'm not going to just put it out there and say that Erica is the only one who throws all her issues at me. No, I'm the type who I hold in everything. And I know I've said this before, I don't talk to nobody about my problems, no matter who it is or who it's about. I hold it all in. And there is a point where I feel like I'm going to explode. And a lot of times I do. I may snap on Erica, and I'm going to be straight up. So it's hard to really deal or say, how can you handle that when it's you? You as a person got to be willing to change and do stuff differently in order to change how you respond or how you come off on somebody else. So it's really hard to say that unless the person is willing to work on themselves.
Agreed. Go ahead, Jay.
I think one of the ways that you can change it, because I know I dealt with a lot of those issues with regard to my temper early on in our relationship. And it became a situation where I had to be honest with myself. I had to understand what my issues were, where they stemmed from, what the root of them were. And a lot of it was predicated on me being just, like I say, honest with myself. You know what happened to you when you were younger. You know what you went through. You know what environment you were raised around. You know what previous relationships and things that you dealt with. And if you continue to run through the same types of issues with different people, and it's not just a situation like Christina stated, where it's all subject to just your marriage, because it's relationships, period. And it goes beyond that. You know what I'm saying? It goes beyond the relationship between your spouse, because it can be with regard to any way you deal with any relationship, maybe at work, friends, family, or whatever the case may be. So
She irritating. Oh, sorry.
if yeah, like what? She what?
I forgot. Go ahead, man.
I can't no more. You just threw me off. Yeah, see, that safety net ain't as strong as you think it is it?
So thank you for asking that question, Tammy. So I think it goes back to just creating that dope space in your relationship where you are comfortable with talking about these things. And I think you have to ask questions. One thing that I learned when I first got married, the first several years of my marriage, probably the first 6 of 8, I didn't like talking because Jennifer I swear, she wants to have the deepest of the deep conversation. And I'm like, babe, seriously? I listen, I just want to tell you that I went to this location. It was terrible. And that's it. And I just want to be done with the day. So I had to learn that how she interacts, how she gets her stimulation, all that stuff is based off of these conversations. And we had to create that in our marriage. I mean, it took 7 years for me, and this wasn't even her thing, it was a me thing, for me to get to that place where I was just like, okay, and now I'm very comfortable with it. But you have got to develop that, or else you can't fix having that safety net or the stability of that safety net. So those are some ways that I think you can do that. But this has been absolutely great conversation. Thank you guys for all of your comments that you have left. We see them. We're going to respond. We're going to pull them in. We have another topic that we are going to dive in and dissect. We are going to end this call. We're going to finish that up. And then that's going to be posted on our Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter on Thursday at 8 p.m. So you don't want to miss that. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be great. So we're going to dive in some more. So again, if you have not already done this, like the page, subscribe, turn on the post notifications. Please, if you guys would be so kind, head over to our YouTube page and subscribe and turn on the notification bells, because we're going to be uploading some content there, some never before seen footage, and it's going to be phenomenal. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Thank you for getting in on the conversation. And we will see you we will see you Thursday with continuing the conversation. Ciao.